You're on now.
Okay.
There you go. And we can. How did the eggplant turn out?
It is sitting in front of me cooling because it was in the oven for 40 minutes and came out and was hot like you wouldn't believe. So I'm going to eat that a little bit later.
We found John. Yeah. Can you guys all hear him okay? Everybody can hear him all right, hopefully. If not, I can always turn him up. He now has the power of Discord. Discord can be really, really weird. Perfect. Everybody can hear you. I'm going to put on background music very, very, very low just because I'm so awkward with silence.
Awkward with silence.
Are you?
Not really.
No? You're okay with silence?
I'm good with silence.
We were talking about this the other day. Like, my brain just won't shut up with silence. I know you're shocked by this.
Neither will mine. But if I let my brain just rattle on, then I usually end up coming up with a sci-fi story or something that I can use. So
Yeah, but see, that doesn't help. I mean, I guess it helps if you're a sci-fi writer and you're looking for, your muse. I guess that would be okay. But
that and YouTube videos. I mean,
yeah.
a lot of the ideas come from just reading random scientific papers, but some of them, some of the more bat-crap crazy ones that I do, those come from just sitting around thinking.
So this wasn't one of those with the wow signal, though, right?
No, the wow signal is very planned. What happened with this is we were able to contact the guy that actually detected the signal and wrote wow on a sheet of paper, Dr. Jerry Eman. And we were able to do an interview with him. And I thought, well, this is the closest that SETI's ever come.
Yeah.
Flat out. And as a result, I wanted to do this sort of definitive interview with Dr. Eman. And once we did it, we were like, whoa, that was really good. So we needed to do a little bit more than we usually do with the interviews. So I decided that the wow signal needed a thorough overview because there are a lot of misconceptions out there regarding that signal.
Right.
And in some ways, it's actually weirder than is usually depicted. If you see something on, Science Channel on television or something like that,
Man.
they don't go into the depth of why this was so weird.
Right.
On the other hand, you've got people that claim that there's some kind of a message, in that 6EQUJ5 thing, and there is no such thing. That's just signal strength. So I just wanted to create a video that explained exactly what we know, as far as the solid science of it and what actually happened within the constraints of radio astronomy. So that's the origin of that video. But the main centerpiece of this it's sort of like Shark Week, but we're doing Wow Signal Week over on Event Horizon.
Yeah.
And it culminates on Thursday with the release of the interview with Dr. Eman.
And how long is that going to be approximately? Does Ross even know?
Over an hour. Yeah,
over an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a good watch then.
And he was, Dr. Eman was interesting. He I mean, of course he's a scientist. You can't make any sort of claims here, but you can certainly say that was an interesting signal. And it had attributes that really didn't look very natural. So who knows?
And
now,
coming towards us too, right?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. We don't know. Either because the signal came in at just slightly above the 1420 megahertz hydrogen line.
Right.
Just slightly. And that could be due to the source transmitting just slightly above it, or it could be due to blue shift, where it's just slightly blue shifted by motion, in which case the source would be moving at us at about, I think, 10 kilometers per second, which is actually slower than what Voyager 2 is moving at. So it isn't it's not like hurtling at us. It's just barely moving.
That might make that a little bit weirder too, right?
It very well might. And what really makes it weird is that they, because of red and blue shift, signals and radio, with motion, they move around. They shift frequencies. They blue shift or they red shift.
Right.
And that's because of the motions of a planet around a star and the motions of the Earth and all this stuff that's involved with this.
Right.
They corrected for all of that, right? Looking for signals that presumably might have been corrected as well at the source. And the WoW signal was. What does that mean? I mean, it's not definitive, or else, we would have much more on this signal than we do. But it's suggestive, and it really sets it apart from most SETI signals. Most SETI signals are entirely natural,
Right. Right.
and they have, they might be weird, they might be interesting, especially from a scientific point of view, because we don't really know a lot about, all these weird radio sources out there. But it doesn't say alien civilization. WoW went a little bit beyond that. It took a little bit of a step further. And
Yeah.
nobody's been able to shoot it down in 40 years. So
Yeah, there's no confirmation of that. I mean, they had it once, and
it would be really helpful if the thing would repeat.
I know, like a lot, and that's the thing. So, and I heard you emphasize might, even just in what we watched with the
Might.
17. Yeah, might. You said it like probably 3
Because
times, I think.
you have to remember, yeah, and I did that on purpose because
Right.
you have to remember that just because something might be of alien origin, whether it's a detection of a microbe or a detection of a radio signal, that doesn't mean that it isn't, the possibility that it's natural isn't eliminated, because someone could come and think of something that could produce a signal like this in nature that nobody's thought of yet.
Right.
And it's that simple. But there is an ambiguity line. At some point, something looks so unnatural that it's like walking along a beach and you see a plastic Pepsi bottle on the beach. You would never conclude that that was natural. It's a Pepsi bottle,
Right.
So there is that point, but we have never gotten anywhere close to that with anything in SETI. It's more, could be, maybe. Can we think of anything that this might not be? And the WoW signal ultimately ends up being sort of useless unless it repeats, because
Right.
you can't verify, you can't study. You just know that it happened, which in science makes it essentially interesting, but ultimately does not answer any questions.
Right.
And that's the real tragedy of the WoW signal, really, because it looked so good that if that thing would have been repeating and would have been studyable, there's a very good chance that it might have been produced by an alien civilization.
Did
Or
did they
not.
try to ping anything back?
I think so, but the thing is that we are someone else's WoW signal because we never repeat our signals. So yes, we sent out radio into the galaxy, and in one case with the Arecibo message, we sent it out at great energy. This was a big signal.
Right.
Essentially, anybody with a SETI experiment in the galaxy would see this, but it wouldn't repeat, and they would have to happen to be looking at just the right time to catch it. And that doesn't seem very likely, which is why we did it, because it wasn't very likely that aliens would ever receive it, which means that nothing dangerous out there would see us.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's
so you can,
that's the problem.
yeah. So what we saw a one-off signal, and we ourselves have sent off one-off signals. So maybe that's all anybody ever does, and you never really can confirm this. You can just suspect that maybe there's something out there.
Yeah. And you and I both have had very long talks about Fermi paradox, the Great Filter, things like that. Because I'm seeing people in the chat right now. Someone's like terrifying. First, I don't know why it would be terrifying. I don't think the unknown is necessarily terrifying innately. Like, it's not the first thing that comes into my mind is terrifying. I don't know about you, John. Does the unknown terrify you?
In the case of SETI and alien civilizations, I have two answers to that.
Give me both. We're ready.
The first answer is I would like to not be spooked by it. Because I personally think that there's somebody out there.
Yeah.
And if there's, and there's probably lots of life out there.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, doing what I do and having done it for so long, there are certain scenarios that are pretty terrifying that I hope don't happen.
Right. But that's the thing. So, and I talk about this a lot in my chat, and a lot of people come in here and they say, "Do you entertain talking about UFOs or aliens?"
That's a different story.
That's a different story because usually, again, when I see people that are so looking for this, that right there,
Yes.
there's not much that separates people from looking for the second coming.
That becomes more of a matter of a religion
Right.
than anything science. Now, there are many problems with that sort of thing. One is that you're working on anecdote 95% of the time. Well, anybody can say anything,
Right.
I could just simply say, Skylias, I was, taken aboard a flying saucer and given a complete physical yesterday. Well, what's that? Doesn't mean anything.
No, remember, it's not a full physical. They don't do that. It's usually just reserved for anal probes.
That's true. It's usually proctology.
Yeah, it is. It's purely proctology. I don't know
purely
why.
Proctology, which makes you wonder, would one traverse light years of space at relativistic speeds to give proctology exams?
It's what I mean. So like these things, they seem so contrived, and I don't know who came up with the idea that would be the one orifice that would be just, really scary to explore.
Why not the other orifices? Why not an ear examination?
Even the mouth, like that's insane, I just
You would think, because that's ultimately connected. I mean, it's the full digestive tract, so
Right.
you would think the mouth would be of equal interest, but it isn't.
But it isn't.
Now, I should say something here. I should actually promote something, because the reason I'm sitting on this live stream is I'm chilling after spending nearly 2.5 hours with Dr. Claudio Maccone in Italy, who is one of the main guys within SETI. And we just did a huge interview. And every time I do an interview of that magnitude, I immediately open a bottle of wine afterwards and chill because I'm brain dead.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's why I'm here. Is I'm in my chill mode after a huge SETI interview.
Yeah, and that's what we usually, do here. Even though a lot of these guys test me. I mean, we Yep. I mean, I don't even know how my brain would be after something like that. I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments here. This is too good. It is, but this is why we enjoy having JMG on here, because these are nice chill times.
Lights, specifically, somebody asked about those. Those were military flares, I think. They look just like it and behave just like it. So my guess is that the military was dropping flares from a plane.
Wait, which one? Oh, the Aaron's in here. What a species eats tells a lot about them, plus all the flora. But the flora could be accessed through the mouth. You don't need, Is he speaking on Arizona? I don't know what that's meaning.
I just answered a question about the Phoenix, Arizona lights from the 90s that was a UFO sighting. But it's a non-starter as far as rational thinking goes. I think it was just flares.
I gotcha.
And the other problem with it is that even if, and this is rarely ever mentioned, or never mentioned, honestly, within that field, if you want to call it a field, even if there were craft of non-human origin, we'll call them, in the atmosphere of Earth, you still couldn't ever conclude that it was aliens. And the reason comes from a paper written by Dr. Jason Wright at Pennsylvania State University, where he went into the sort of obvious fact that if there had been a prior technological civilization on Earth, we couldn't know about it. It would have been ground away and gone if it happened millions of years ago. So if they're out there somewhere, left this planet, then it's not alien, it's Earth life. So you can't ever even say, even if, that there was something to it, even if, you can't ever just say it was aliens. Personally, I think a lot of this stuff past the anecdote level is the government. That's what I think it is. I think they're testing out weird drones and God knows what.
Yeah. And along those lines, so That's the other thing. Like there's been people that, so you've heard about Bob Lazar, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
What do you think about him?
I don't believe a word he says.
Me neither. And so I have people that come in and ask about that. And then they follow up with the other guy's name, which is really unfortunate because he seemed a bit more credible. I don't remember his name. Other people in here might. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was, I guess, a military man himself. And you might know what I'm talking about. Maybe. I don't remember his name. I don't. For all I know, like a lot of this stuff just appears to be like unsolved mysteries.
Ultimately, and I don't want to cast aspersions, but ultimately, how do I say this? If someone from a military background says that something was seen that didn't look right, how would one know that's not government disinformation trying to cover up for a test of something?
Yeah, no, I would be so suspicious of all the information, but people seem to be like, well, he worked for the government, so instant credibility. The guy seemed more sane.
What I'm saying is this. Let me separate this from any humans, because I don't want to cast aspersions. And
Right.
I also don't want to say that people don't see UFOs, because
Right.
unidentified flying objects, people see that stuff, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But let me separate it from this and just put it this way. Why would someone trust the government when they talk about UFOs in a certain context, but they don't trust them? You know, the government's hiding everything. They know, but they don't trust them in the other context. So either you trust the government or you don't, right?
Yeah.
And that bar is not really applied with UFO people. I see it in my comments section on YouTube all the time, where they're like, "Oh, well, we're about to get disclosure or something like that." Yet and that's because the government supposedly confirms that UFOs are seen. So suddenly everybody trusts the government after decades of not trusting them.
Right.
You know, so they're hiding something, but now they're not hiding something. What's that mean? So I find the whole thing dubious and rather sordid,
Yeah.
because a lot of people, again, not going to name names, but a lot of people make a lot of money off of UFO videos,
Oh, yeah.
monetized videos, books. It's a whole cottage industry. And this is my own conspiracy theory, is that there are people conspiring in this world to make money off of paranoia. And that is the real conspiracy theory, is that the people that spin conspiracy theories and talk about certain phenomena have a financial motive to do so, because people will buy that content.
Absolutely. And over time, they can actually sell it even better, almost as if they believe it themselves, just hearing themselves say it so many times.
Imagine if, and I ask myself this only in jest, because I would never do anything like it.
Right.
But I have a 200,000 subscriber YouTube channel, right? Mm-hmm. If I said the word UFO on that channel, I would make thousands of dollars off of Google AdSense just by simply uttering that word. And people ask me why I don't talk about UFOs. It's because I don't think it's an honest business, and I don't talk about them.
Right.
But a less scrupulous type might do that. And there's been examples of that on YouTube, where people have done things like exploration, exploring videos. I'm exploring abandoned mines. I'm exploring houses and things like that. Mm-hmm. And at some point, when the views start dropping off, they see a ghost.
Right.
And just do a hoax video.
Yeah, next thing you know, they have deep V-necks and they're asking each other, bro, did you feel that?
Yep.
You know?
So with that in mind, I look at that whole arena with a very large grain of salt.
Yeah, and so do I. And that's why, I mean, again, it sucks because I think people think that when they come in and they say, do you believe in aliens? And usually that's the first thing that they say to me. I'm more, I guess, comfortable with it, if someone comes in with another question that might be relevant to what we're talking about or whatnot, and they don't delve right into that from the get-go. It's almost
People
like they're
want
looking for
to
me to,
believe.
yeah. And if I say, you know, and just like you, I think you and I agree with the whole Fermi paradox when we talked with Fraser, and you beat Fraser
Yep.
with that one line, in the debate.
Yes. I emerged victorious in favor of alien life. But the thing is I want the actual answer to the question,
Right.
and I want it from science, you know.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I'm really ultimately not interested because you can't ever prove anything from anything else. Um, so I just say, you know, show me the alien or something.
Well, then they
And
say, but you cannot not prove. That's what they do. The not, the double
then
negative.
they also will go further, and if you deny it, as I do in my comments section, and I say the same things I'm telling you, then you become part of the conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
So there are conspiracy theories out there ranging from I am the frozen Roswell alien, which I'm clearly not frozen,
No.
and all the way to I'm government shill. So
Yeah, you become a part of they, and we don't even know who they are.
right.
I don't think we've ever confirmed who are they, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know, and then if you ask, you get answers like, "Oh, it's the Illuminati." You
Right.
know, what is that? You know, so I sort of no definitive answers about anything comes from that arena is ultimately what I would say.
Yeah. And wait, let's see. There were some other good question or comments up here. I have to scroll up. And Aaron, of course, UFOs exist well up to the point that they're identified. Then they're just objects. They might not even be flying anymore. True. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know where the green men thing came from. I know that we had the LMG stuff. Well, no, it was a LGM. It was little green men. That was for pulsars, right?
Yes, that was the original
Pulsar
Jocelyn
detection.
Bell Burnell, I think.
Yeah.
When they discovered pulsars, that was the code name for it. But
Right.
that was really kind of in jest because
Oh, it was totally in
they,
jest. Yeah.
they didn't know what it was. It was just a repeating radio, repeating signal.
Right.
Um, and but that wasn't really the the weird part of it. People talk about things like society can't handle knowing that there's aliens and things like that, and that's why the government would supposedly keep it all secret.
Do you think that society could?
Yes, I do, because there was a time when society absolutely believed that Mars was inhabited by little green men. That was back in the days of Giovanni Schiaparelli, which I was actually corrected earlier today on the pronunciation of, and Percival Lowell, which saw canals on Mars. And these were popularly written about by H.G. Wells and people like that. And it was a household thing, household knowledge, that there were aliens on Mars.
Yeah.
We later found out that Mars is not not or conducive for macrofauna, at least. But the point is that at that time society believed that there was alien life. Now this happened again too, most famously with Orson Welles' broadcast of radio play of the War of the Worlds. And it's always been said that people freaked out thinking it was real. The reality of that was that only a few people did, and it made big news. But in reality, most people knew that it was not, and if they didn't know, they didn't care, So this idea of alien life existing in the public consciousness has been there before. And we also live here in the U.S., I think, as I recall, over 50% of people believe that UFOs are of alien origin. So they already believe it. And even more credible organizations, like the Roman Catholic Church, say that there's no problem if there's aliens. We don't have a problem with it. So I don't think very many people will be surprised if a
Right.
SETI signal were detected. And I don't think that pandemonium and chaos would happen.
I'm going to take a really
like,
hot take here and just say I fear a little bit more about the Roman Catholic Church than I do aliens. but
Well, I'm just using it as an example. It's something that a lot of people believe.
I just did a hot take to make everybody really uncomfortable. But 10 years ago, they were all about Pluto's barking on Pluto. Were they? Dogs? Really? I don't even know. I don't know if that was just someone being funny, but that might have been. Yeah, no. So yeah, your argument is that you don't think that that society could not handle such information. I agree. I think that we totally could. And also, the other thing that I always try to tell people and comfort them is that there's so many people that look up at the night sky constantly,
Oh yeah,
all the
absolutely.
time,
And never see anything.
and never
like
see anything. And who thinks that amateur astronomers are great at keeping secrets?
Oh, they're
Yeah.
not.
No.
And there are people that drag their telescopes out or open their private observatory dome every night, and they never seem to catch anything like this. So, I I imagine occasionally it happens, but I've never had an amateur astronomer come up to me and say, "Hey, I I, I just photographed a UFO."
Yeah.
Um, but what you do see is things that have much more mundane explanations, like SpaceX satellites,
Right. Or
or
even
things like
Tabby's star, right? With there being
Tabby
a
Star. Yeah, yeah.
a debris, a dust cloud that
Tabby Star is a good example of this,
Mhm.
though, on what the difference between ufology and science is. Ufology would look at it and say that's an alien civilization, and science said no, could be. I mean, it's on the table, but it could be dust or something like that. So we're going to go through a process of elimination, and ultimately, it turned out to be very fine dust. And they came to the conclusion of what's real. The UFO stuff doesn't come to that bar. They're just say that unidentified flying object. I'm going to identify it as an alien spacecraft.
Mhm.
Well, that's not good enough. That's not good enough to say this is truth. Um, so that's the other thing, is that just the bar is not very high in that field. Now, I think people should look into it if they want to. I
Absolutely.
mean, I don't know what an unidentified object is.
Right.
By its very nature. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that take it with a grain of salt. You know. Whereas if you have a SETI institution come out, at some lucky day and say we have an unambiguous alien signal, there is the answer to your question. That
Yeah.
we are not alone.
There was someone who said, with all the aliens depicted in fiction, it's not even a strange or uncommon idea. So it might not be strange or uncommon. Still, I guess the plausibility of it being a thing is what is the trip up. And so someone says we only see the aliens when they want us to. And John has no comment on that.
It just doesn't. Like I said, it's people that want to believe.
Right.
Like the old X-Files meme. I want to believe. Um, I have asked myself that question and did thought experiments. Do I want to believe? No, I want to know. I want to know if there's something detectable out there.
Right.
And that's as far as it goes, because if you do detect something, it's either going to be maddening to people because they'll come out and they say, we see a signal at 1420 megahertz, and it's the wow signal again. We'll use the wow signal as an example. And people are going to be like, what's it say? And the scientists are going to be like, there's no modulation in it. We don't know. It's just a raw radio signal. It's radar. It's somebody's radar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's that tell you about that alien civilization? Nothing other than they have radar and science, And then that's all you ever know, you know, that they're not communicating with you. You've just managed to catch them in, communication or radar or whatever. And you never know any more than that.
Right.
So people are going to be like, well, what do we know about these people? Nothing. Just a signal. The other problem on the other end of the spectrum is that if you do see something like a techno signature or whatever, It could either be very sad, such as a civilization that is polluting their atmosphere to the point that we can detect the CFCs and chemicals in the atmosphere that say that they're committing suicide. Or, and given that they're distant, this would have happened long ago,
Right.
probably. Or it could be something absolutely terrifying, like a machine civilization that is like the Reapers from the Mass Effect game, So
Right.
do you really want to know? And I think in my case, I don't. You know, um,
Ignorance is bliss at that point.
yeah. Unless somebody discovers it through a study, then I'm interested. But as far as wanting to believe, not necessarily.
Yeah, and Mac, you're absolutely right. So wanting to believe or believing so again, wanting to believe usually requires faith, and that's a word that is analogous to religion. Someone wanting to know is going to be different. That's going to put the burden of proof.
Right.
So that's where that's separated. What about some of us being aliens? I can clone myself, yet everybody sees me. Okay. And then we need to make our AI overlords stronger than them. So my question is, and this is what I usually talk about too, is if there were intelligent life out in wherever, some part of our galaxy or even further, assuming that they can manage the distances, which are also time, do you think that they would actually choose humans?
It depends on how rare we are. If we are one of two civilizations in the galaxy, then that means that intelligent life is very, very rare and very precious. So they may be interested in us for that reason. If intelligent life is common, then we're probably not of any more interest than I mean, very few people on this earth, a handful of anthropologists can say that they are familiar with every culture on earth, right?
Right. Yeah.
So in general, I can't imagine that we'd be that interesting unless we're very rare. And to cross light years of space is very expensive. You have to expend a lot of energy to do that. And I just can't imagine it being worth it, you
Right.
know?
That's more my issue is that unless it was exceedingly rare, but at the same time, we are looking at exoplanets and things, but we just have such a small sample size.
A sample of one.
Yeah, we have well, yeah,
There.
n equals one right now, but the of the magnitude of like say TESS, Kepler, and now Cheops
Yeah.
and things like that, right? So we even knowing all these other exoplanets, and we don't even know really. We haven't had the chance to study their atmospheres
Right.
quite yet, and so we don't even know. I guess the brevity of what we're dealing with. So when it comes down to that, that's where I kind of get tripped up. Is we could be pretty unique. But I don't know if I were able to traverse, say, the Milky Way, go 75,000 light years across it and
Right.
arrive here, I would see a civilization that's kind of hell bent on self-destruction.
Well, and then there's the other scenario that one cannot know the mind of an alien civilization, and they may do things that seem counterintuitive to us.
True.
So, in other words, they may come here, and I made a joke on my channel long ago about this. They may come here looking for the McRib. They don't find it because it doesn't happen to be available at that time, and then they just EMP us back into the Stone Age while broadcasting a SETI message that says "Where McRib." Um, so you want to be careful to try to judge the motives of aliens because they may know things that we don't. You know. Um, and you just have to leave it open because any as Arthur Clarke said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Right.
And they may have, I mean, for all we know, they may have FTL or something like that,
Yeah.
and that or just our physics is incomplete. We don't know about it yet.
Yeah. Tachyons could be a thing, maybe, sort of, kind of, not really. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Someone just said time is relative in response to me talking about traveling, traversing 75,000 light years. Yes, time is very relative. I think we're both aware of that. I don't see where that offers any kind of, other than supporting the great filter idea, which again, I'm with John. I think that there is life out there. I think it'd be almost preposterous to think that n just solely equals one. But I think that you've got the problem of time, and time comes with a problem of distance. Because again, light years is not a measurement of time, even though we use it a lot interchangeably. It's a measurement of distance originally. Right?
Cesara makes an excellent point that we can't even talk to dolphins,
Right.
even though dolphins are clearly communicating with each other.
Yeah.
We can only
Weren't we
just
making jokes about
infer what's
this?
going on.
We were making jokes about dolphins. And what was the other thing? There was something else. You were like, if dolphins had, I forgot. We were making jokes about this, John, you and I.
What I want to know in that question is, and I think this would be the ultimate in irony if this happens. What if we found that dolphins and whales can communicate with each other, but not us, and we can't communicate with them? And that for all our communication abilities, we're too dumb to figure out what a dolphin is saying, but a whale can understand it. That would be of great interest to me if we ever found that. There's no evidence for that, but it would be really interesting.
And then we, as humans, just kill them off,
It would suggest that, well, exactly, but it would suggest that animals have a certain ability, and I suspect this is true.
Oh, yeah.
They have certain abilities that we don't, as far as their ability to perceive stuff. I think that, they might have a different linguistic, part of the brain that is so different from our primate brains that we can't understand them, but they may be able to understand each other. They're close enough. Maybe they can actually communicate because their communications are actually very close together. They're related, whereas ours isn't. And that we're just simply too separated in evolution from a dolphin to be able to comprehend its language and communications. So,
Yeah.
but if with another, cetacean like a whale, the Gulf may not be that far. So
Right.
maybe another one that you could example of that you could go with is us and elephants, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that elephants communicate with each other, but they do so at such a low frequency that we didn't even know they were doing it until the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just, it's too far below what we can hear for us to actually hear elephant communications. To us, they just seem to be trumpeting it around and doing their thing. But between elephants, they're actually communicating over very long distances using very low frequencies that are below what human hearing can hear. So, that was a communication that we were totally unaware of until somebody recorded elephants and looked and saw, in the waveform that there was low frequency sounds going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the same problem that SETI faces: is where do you look?
Right. Yeah, and elephants were also not, humans are not being so great to them. And that's the sad thing. Like every time I hear this, it resonates. The hippie part of me, John, the hippie part of me.
I am known to have a hippie part myself, as you know.
I love animals. Humans are not my favorite. There is a plenty intra-species communication. Ravens can call wolves. Humans communicate with dogs, sort of. Okay, so I have a puppy. It's going, but it's not going great. And big brain whales, yeah.
What's interesting, I have cats, and the cats have figured out certain things as far as communicating with me, such as the food bowl is empty.
Mm-hmm.
So the cat knows to come up and bat me on the leg and tell me that the food bowl is empty. So to some extent, cats have figured out to communicate a concept such as empty food bowl to humans.
Right.
So they are able to adapt to us as much as we are able to adapt to them. Um, and with dogs, I'm convinced. Now there are people that debate this, but I'm convinced that dogs understand certain words when you give them commands.
Right.
But what level they understand them is unknown, but they understand when you give a dog a command where it's trained, it will do something, like sit or something like that. I don't think it's just tone.
No.
I think there's actually an understanding of the word.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's usually reserved to one word. And that's where people with training their dogs, they'll say, be quiet. And they're going to be like, what do you mean? But if you say no, no is pretty easy to pick up on. It's when people start using other words and they're like, I don't get why my dog doesn't get this. You have to stick pretty simple, but they can understand it. They can understand a variety of words if used, usually one word at a time. You don't want to
and
overdo
to
it.
apply that to dolphins. Dolphins have much larger brain. They've got bigger brains than we do.
Yeah.
And they have very complex brains. And there's been cases such as in the 1960s, a scientist did a study where she actually taught a dolphin to count. And the dolphin, as best it could vocalize through its blowhole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I think AEIOU.
Wow.
And it you can just barely tell that that's what the dolphin is saying. And they've through other means they've been shown to be obviously very intelligent. But it's interesting because you have that. You also have chimpanzees in sign language.
Yep.
Where they can actually tell. Not only do they tell you and can communicate and say, there's a gorilla, for example, that watches TV and signs, "This makes me sad." So it clearly understands what it's seeing on television, and it's clearly empathizing because it's watching humans. And whatever's bad is happening is making the ape sad. But also, chimpanzees were found to start making up their own words. And there was, they taught them to sign, and then all of a sudden these chimpanzees are signing to each other, and they're making up cuss words. One of them called another one a green shit, which had never been, had never been exposed to it. So the chimpanzee made up a cuss term and an invective against the other chimpanzee.
Let's see. And yeah, Aaron is saying, yeah, dogs do well with, yep. So it's the longer strings. Yeah. If you try to attach too many things like be quiet, they're going to be like, what are you saying? But if you say no, then they know, okay, that behavior is not good. Or quiet, they'd understand more than be quiet. It's when you start tacking on other things that they start to get confused. And I only know this because recently I've been working with a trainer that, make it, he keeps saying every time I'd say, he'd say, she's not going to understand what you're saying when you do anything like that. You have to stick to, one word or one syllable, things like that. It's kind of crazy. And John, I don't know if you knew, I got a Whippet puppy. So she's she's really fast. Nice. She's really fast.
I like Whippets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always liked them since I was a little girl and never thought I would actually own one. We were thinking of getting a Greyhound, but that would require buying a different car because they're huge.
They are huge, but in fairness, there's not an animal on this planet that I don't like.
Yeah, I know. Same. I know. You could throw any puppy at me and I'd be all about it.
Yeah,
but
you could throw a crocodile at me and I'd make friends with it until it ate me.
Yeah, until... Yeah, and so, yeah, she zooms. She does zoom. So, and the other day we let her down in the basement and I was actually at the top of the stairs looking down and I just saw a blur go by. But
I have to go pour wine. I will be off camera, but I can hear.
Okay. Mosquitoes? What about mosquitoes? But yeah, she does zoom. So I didn't know this, but Whippets are the fastest accelerating animal, or dog. Sorry, dog, not animal. Dog. So she is a zoomer. You can call my dog a zoomer and she will not be offended. She, So whippets accelerate the fastest. They do not achieve the fastest speed. Greyhounds still take that, but they can go roughly about 35 miles per hour. I mean, do people love mosquitoes? So, no. In his bedroom, no, he's probably going. And Reaper, are you familiar with John? He has a great channel. We watch a lot of his videos on here. And again, guys, if you do the command JMG, we have Ross in here. We also have Aaron and John, all lovely, beautiful
Did I hear
humans.
that right? Does somebody have a pet mosquito?
No one better have a pet mosquito. No. Big fan. Yeah, he's amazing. The universe only knows how to feed back the energy you give it. Pancake. No pet pancakes. I don't even know what's happening anymore in my channel. Sky, if you like the animals, how about bugs like giant centipedes? So centipedes don't bother me. In fact, I read a book with Mini Sky last night. She actually read it because she's learning how to read, about how her new word for the night was, what was it? Cephalothorax. I was supposed to tell her teacher a new word that she learned, and as I was writing it out, I just wrote right underneath it, good luck with that one, like having her pronounce that to you. Yeah, I was like, good luck with that one. But she learned how spiders have venom and how venom is different than poison. A lot of people don't know that there's a difference between venom and poison. But they inject venom that makes, their prey's insides become goo, and they suck it out of them. It's really eloquent. Kind of feels like my Twitch channel sometimes, guys. Kind of feels like you guys sometimes. Just gonna say, But yeah, so venom. Yeah, not a spider. Twitch chat is a spider. You guys are a spider.
I like spiders. I actually leave them alone in my house because they take out less desirable insects.
Yeah, no, I usually leave them alone as well, especially if they're bigger.
I am a transplanter. Whenever I find an unwanted insect in the house, I usually capture it and release it.
Yeah,
But
that's what I do too.
Some little part of me appreciates that the spiders sometimes do the work for me.
Yeah,
and
it's
take out the bad insects.
justice for spider. Yeah. Spiders aren't it's weird, John. It's right now. It's like trying to catch up with your movements. You're too fast for Discord. It's like trying.
Too fast for Discord.
And then saying it like that was 10 times better. I kill every spider I see. Yeah, no, and so we were talking about the different ones of my jet's gonna die hearing that.
The other scourge of the insects are, of course, my cats, which they basically, any insect they see, they gulp down. So the cats and the spiders don't really. They actually seem to leave each other alone. But they both go after all the other insects.
Yeah, like let's see. Last I had a black widow living behind the fridge. I just let her hang out. Yeah, that's the thing. So people think that black widows, because so Mini Sky was talking about black widows being scary, and I said, they're not that bad. They're not out to get you.
They're not out to get you. I mean, you're thousands of times bigger than it is, and it can't eat you. You're not food.
Right.
So unless you accidentally disturb one,
Right.
which just is a matter of, responsible, if you're going to lift up a board out in the backyard that's been there for 5 years, put some gloves on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Now,
and
the one I have been bit by is the brown
the
recluse.
No.
And
No.
yeah, and that occurred simply because I rolled over on one in bed. And yeah, I woke up with a sort of running bite and a dead brown recluse there, and that was not pleasant. That was not good.
What did you do? What did you do?
Well, I knew what it was. And I was like, well, let's see how this goes, because just sort of the first thing that happens is you get a kind of a raised welt, right?
Right.
And then as the days go on, the tissue necrotizes.
Right.
And it looks like a bruise at first, then it basically gets wicked on you. And then it either heals up or it doesn't. And mine healed up, so.
Oh my God. Yeah, so the venom, causes necrosis of the epidermis, of the skin. That's no bueno. Or it can. It can.
I don't want to go into details on exactly what it is, but it is.
Everybody in here wants you to go on. Everybody in here is now going to. They're going to say you can't do that. This is Twitch chat. They're going to say you can't. The smell.
Necrotized human tissue.
Oh yeah, no, I talk about dead people all the time, John.
This is different than that. This is something else. And I definitely, that's the one thing that stuck in my mind was just the smell. Now, oddly enough, there is no evidence of this. No scarring, no nothing.
Yeah.
So, go figure.
Yeah. Yep. Is being dead on the inside count? Yes. Specific details.
If you smell on the inside, that's an issue.
That's a real issue. Yeah. Do you have pictures? Someone asked.
No.
He's not that much of a masochist. I would love to see a brown recluse. I think there's one in they're pretty common, aren't they? Brown recluses are pretty common across the U.S.
They are in this state. I see them all the time.
Yeah.
But you know, to get one, they're not aggressive. So to get bit by one, you have to roll over it in bed. You know?
Right.
And there was a brown recluse in bed with me. You know. So they're common here, and I'm sure they're common in your area too.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a black widow. But again, like black they're not out to get you.
I have not been bit by a black widow, but I know a guy that did.
Yeah. And it's fine. I do it all the time. I punch this mic all the time. A lot of widows here. Yeah, we have a lot of black widows here. I've seen probably about 3 or 4 of them. But I've never been hurt by one of them at all, ever.
I know a guy that landed in the hospital, though, from getting bit by one.
Really?
Yeah. Buddy of mine. And it caused paralysis.
Paralysis?
So he was like paralyzed, and they had to put him on a ventilator because it paralyzed his breathing.
Oh my God.
But if you get past that, then you recover.
Yeah, no, if you guys can learn to breathe again, you're fine. The thing that we have.
Labyrinthian says, I'm in St. Louis and see them all the time. So am I, and I see them all the time.
Yeah,
they're all over here.
Yeah, he's in farm country town. We have hobos, but well, no. I was talking about you.
Yeah.
I don't know where Labyrinthian is.
Well, he said St. Louis, and I'm 40 miles away from St. Louis, roughly.
Yeah. We have hobo spiders. What are hobo spiders? I don't know what hobo spiders are. I don't think I want to pick them up on the side of the road, though. I'm in Denver. They're not common here at all. Brown recluse like water. Oh, yeah. So I'm in Boulder. JMG is just up yonder from me. Yeah. Brown recluse is way worse, but they rarely bite unless forced to do so. Yeah, right. Hobo. Wait, what does Tiz say there? Hobo, on the other hand, will wander down. We're talking about spiders, not people. Will wander down the hall and bite you just because it. Yeah. So you know what's crazy though is these spiders that we're talking about are pretty small relatively. So I know we're not talking about space stuff, but we're hanging out with John, and this is good for my soul. Like wolf spiders are really common here. Have you ever seen one of those, John?
No, but I have. To go into my long list of things I've been bit by, I have been stung by a scorpion.
I almost did, but Windex.
Well, we probably all almost did because they were infesting out in California. They were infesting the observatory site.
Spacemas.
No, were they? Oh, you're right. No, we did see a scorpion when we were out there. We did. And people didn't get to see that because it was like 140p, John.
Well, I mean, the only way that they were able to be revealed is if you had an ultraviolet light flashlight,
And then
and
140p camera.
yeah, exactly, and it was dark, really dark, which was the whole point of it. And so, yeah, but there were scorpions skittering around, and there were also warnings of what were they, sidewinder snakes?
Yep. Out there.
So we could have all been killed by watching
The stars.
the Milky Way, but no
Yeah.
one was. No one was.
No one was, but we could have died for the sake of science, guys. By the way, John has a Patreon account. I'm just going to interject that here.
I do indeed. www.patreon.com/John Michael Godier.
It's Patreon link, please. Look at this lovely link. That's like that's War and Peace in terms of a command. Look at that. It's huge. It has his YouTube, the Event Horizon YouTube, his Patreon, his Twitter, his books. I mean, what more?
Incidentally, getting stung by a scorpion, which happened on my hand.
How? Wait,
is-
first, how? You can't just be
Okay.
like, okay, so got stung by a scorpion on my
Yes.
hand.
What happened was I was in an area, which the St. Louis people nearby probably know. I was in South St. Louis County, and I was fossil hunting on a railroad cut where you cut for the railroad to pass through. So you get these big cliffs that have fossils exposed. And I was on a rock pile, and I looked down, and there was a scorpion, which Missouri only has one native scorpion, and I just happened to find one. And it was about 6 inches from my hand. And I'm like, that's a scorpion. And the little bastard went up right up to my hand and got me. And I think he did it just because he was angry that I was sitting on his rock pile. And then he skittered off, and I was like, damn it. And it felt like a bee sting. Wasn't terrible.
I've never been stung by a bee. I've had wasps and bees land on me. I've never been stung.
I've been stung multiple times. One time when I accidentally stepped on a hive.
Yep, I've had friends do that barefoot. So did anything come of the scorpion sting?
A little bit of swelling and discomfort for about 2 days. But obviously there are scorpions in this world that are poisonous. But
Yeah,
the
so
ones
the
here
one,
aren't.
yeah, so the one that when I was living in Arizona, on my own, 18 years old in my own apartment, away from my family, all these things that are just troublesome for an 18-year-old. And I was cleaning behind my toilet in my apartment, and there was a clear scorpion. It was really small too. It was pretty small in size. And I saw it there, and I was like, yeah, I guess I am in the desert. I mean, Colorado is still technically a desert, but I just got Windex, and I Windexed the fuck out of it. Just so you know, everybody in my chat is probably imagining me with Windex. I learned all the ways that you could turn the knob on the Windex. I didn't realize that there was like a shooter spray of Windex, and there was like a different methods of disbursement. I didn't know that you could do that until I saw the scorpion. Then I was like twisting the thing, being like, holy shit, I can make this, like, I can spray this shit from like 6 feet away. And it worked. Clear scorpion died. But you know what? It was my cat Ruka. She's the one that told me about it. Because I saw it before, but she was meowing at me earlier, and I never knew what was going on with her. But she had picked up on that there was something weird in the apartment. Again, cat points for being smart.
How big was the scorpion?
It was pretty small. So a little bit over, I would say, a silver dollar. And it was completely clear. I didn't know scorpions could be clear.
Yeah, that was the size of the one that got me in. It wasn't clear. It was actually sort of brown, like a light brown color.
Yeah, I could see through this thing blended in with the linoleum, no problem.
Well, that's like
cheap linoleum.
That would disturb me. A clear scorpion.
It freaked me. Well, I didn't know they could be clear. Then that's what people are like, that's when they're the most poisonous. I'm like, great. I'm glad I didn't know that then. I was just
See,
scared.
that's alien face hugger territory.
Yeah.
That's disturbing. A clear scorpion that's at its most poisonous.
Right. Sigourney would not be able to overcome that.
No.
Not without Windex.
Well, yes, she would. Yes,
no,
she would.
not without
Sigourney
Windex.
would. Now, a normal person, not really, unless you got a bottle of Windex. But Sigourney'd kick its ass.
See, Aaron, sorry, scorpions can be clear. See, that's what I'm saying. Wait, I'll bring it up. I'll put a clear scorpion right between John and myself to make everybody just want to travel into this this lovely channel here. Yeah, no, they can be very clear. It's disgusting too. Yeah.
Could you like see its internal organs?
Yeah. So I didn't try to get that close. Nope, I wasn't that dumb. I did have a little bit of Darwinian instinct kicked in and say, just don't get that close. Like, just don't do it. So that's why I'm probably still here. Yeah, here it is. You ready, Aaron? You ready? This is gonna make your whole bedtime so much better. And it's already almost morning for you. Yeah, it's close to morning, if not morning. You see that? See, and they're tiny. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought. So I gave you a PG photo. All right. Okay, John, she's okay. Hold on. There's worse ones. Yeah, you can see. It's so gross. Okay. How about this? Oh God. This site was clearly made with angel fire.
Imagine being a scorpion and accidentally stinging yourself. Like while you're asleep.
Could they do that?
They look like they could. I mean, might not be able to get to the carapace, though.
Yeah, I was wondering if they have some kind of built-in mechanism, because either their tails are pretty short that they couldn't do that, or they're super long. It's almost like they have some, I don't know, maybe they could. So camelback spiders, though, those are huge, aren't they? Not camelback, camel spiders, not camelback. I'm thinking of the mountain in Arizona. I've never seen one of them. Has anybody in here seen a camel spider? Yeah, they are gross. Do you know what I'm talking about, John?
Yes. I have not seen one in person, though.
I'm just wondering if anybody's been to, because they're usually in, like, what, the Middle East?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, Tazar, no problem. My buddy used to see them in Iraq. Yeah. So wolf spiders are actually quite docile, but we get them here a lot. I'm pretty sure you probably have them there as well. But they look like tarantulas, but they're even less aggressive than tarantulas, even though tarantulas are not very aggressive.
Aaron brings up a good point that they may actually be a scorpion and just superficially look like a spider. I seem to remember that too. Sort of like
really?
a daddy long legs looks like a spider, but it isn't.
Wait, did you just blow everybody's minds in the chat? Did you guys know that daddy long legs? Wait, camel spiders? Are a type of scorpion? I mean, I guess I could see it. We're gonna give everybody nightmares. We're talking about aliens but I mean, I think it's fine. John needs to get more wine because we're talking about all this stuff. Yeah, they're scary as hell. And John, if you need to take a break at any point, you're totally fine because I'm gonna need one here myself. But you're gonna have to talk about more of the things that have bit you. That's gonna be obligatory here.
Let's see. I have been bit by a fish.
Wait, what? Wait,
Yes.
hold on. What?
Well, there are a lot of biting fish. I mean, a piranha, of course.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to be like, oh, so John's been bit by a piranha.
What else? I was not actually bit, but it attempted to bite me. A turtle, a very large snapping turtle. It was not successful, though.
I hear those hurt pretty bad.
Well, from what I'm told, now, I did not go through the actual biting. It just came after me. that their jaws lock on you, so the turtle can grab on and just hold, and you can't get it off. And there are cases where people have, you almost have to chop the thing's head off to get it off of you. Now, that is what I was told, so I don't know if the reality of it is actually that. But they were. I will tell you one thing: that was one aggressive turtle came out of the water at me when I was fishing, and as a kid, and well, not a kid. I was probably like 20, but I just barely, got the hell away from the thing.
Yeah. Sorry, Aaron is making me laugh a lot. I'm trying to do facial exercises right now to stop from laughing.
Another close call
Uh-huh.
was when I was a kid. I lived in Oregon,
Uh-huh.
and I was stalked by a cougar. It never went after me, but I saw it out in the woods following me, trying to figure out if I was going to be delicious. So
Sorry. I'm apparently bad. No, you're not, Tiz. Hold on. Hold on. John was stalked by a cougar.
well, now I could say more about that, but I will refrain from, because it has happened later in life many times.
I'm dying. Okay, we're fine. We're fine. I mean, because the thing is, he was being totally serious about that. So that's why just hearing his voice say that, guys, it's because he was being serious. He was probably stalked by a real cougar. Yeah.
Well, I would have said replace the word Oregon with cruise ship, and it has happened.
That's a whole nother beast. He has a pack of cougars stalking him. He has 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. Duh. I'm dying. Oh God. Okay. Which was scarier? The real questions, John. Which was scarier? The real cougar, or ones that you're locked on a boat with?
Okay, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. I would rather not say which one was more dangerous, lest we get into things like divorce proceedings and versus getting eaten by a large cat.
Dying. I'm actually dying right now. And so is my chat. My chat's cracking up right now. Yeah, guys, we listen to his voice all the time, and now you guys get to see him and hear him. And this is why John and I get along. Don't die. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to. Oh, the type of cougars that don't try to get you to invest in their business. Fucking Aaron. Yes, clearly the human version is more terrifying. Obviously. So so I'm gonna have you tell the story. I'm gonna go pee because I realize I have to pee because everybody's making me laugh.
I hate when that happens.
I know.
Santa.
It's terrible. So I'm gonna let you tell people about the real cougar, the actual cougar that stalked you and how that happened, and then there's probably more. Have you ever been bitten by a snake?
Well, it started one day when I was looking at Norwegian Cruise Line's website. And
Okay, I am. You guys ask him questions. He knows how to take over. I'm gonna be right back, guys. God damn it, John, it's all you.
all right, so here's what happened, guys. So I was a little kid, about 10 years old, maybe. And, Oregon's got all kinds of forests, at least the part where I was at near Portland. And I was walking around in a national park with a friend of mine, and just walking in the woods like you do, when you're a kid. And I caught a glimpse of something orange and just out in the trees, maybe 100 yards, something like that. And I just thought, at the time, I thought it was a deer, something like that. And as we were walking on the trail, it, I kept seeing it, and it was getting closer and closer. And I saw that it was a cougar. And at the time, they tell you don't run, don't do anything. And it wasn't that close, 50 yards type of thing. And then it disappeared. And this trail ran alongside of a sort of bluff line for a river. So there were rocks above me. And just as I was getting back to the parking lot, I heard something up on the rocks. And I can't prove that it was the cougar, but I, it sounded like there was something up there, and it might have been that cougar ready to go after me. And that remains the only time I've ever seen one of those, because they are rare and you do not ever see them. Um, Ross has just messaged me to tell you guys the other thing about this story. This was around 1985, right? And I lived in a town called Astoria in Oregon, and they had the whole town blocked off because they were filming The Goonies, the movie. And yeah, I got to see all of that stuff too, right about the same time. But yeah, the cougar, that was about the scariest thing regarding animals that ever happened to me. Now you see, when you live out west, bears, you see black bears, and things like that. But that's not really something that's ridiculously dangerous, or aggressive. But they can be if you're, got food or something around there. Don't feed the bears. But the cougars are kind of scary. Attacks are rare, of course, and those animals are rare. I mean, they're an apex predator that is never huge in numbers. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. And yes, a cougar will hunt your dog, if you happen to have a cougar nearby. I don't know why they. I'm guessing they eat deer, right? Um, and small animals like that. I'm assuming, but but yeah, they definitely, that was my scariest animal story, is getting stalked by a cougar. Now, it may not be the end of it. Who knows? I may end up getting mauled by a Kodiak bear or something. But I'm not done yet with my animal experiences. Um, let's see here. Anybody got any science questions or anything you want to ask me? What state am I in? I am in the state of Missouri, which is where I'm from, but I grew up in Oregon. So, but then I came back. And Missouri it also has cougars, but you will never see a cougar here, even though there's probably 5 of them in the state or something like that. Same with black bears. They're officially here, but you'll never see one. Is the universe the result of a black hole as the start of the Big Bang? Now, that theory is that the Big Bang was actually a white hole where everything gets, um, that gets sucked into a black hole eventually gets expelled, in another universe, presumably. We have never seen any evidence of that. We have never seen a white hole. We've never seen anything. But there is a resemblance between the Big Bang and mathematically what a white hole would look like. We're in Missouri. I am about 40 miles north of St. Louis. Yes, lasers are, by their nature, a good way to communicate, and there is plenty of people in SETI looking for laser signals, and it's a good way for any communications. That's why we're looking at laser communications for space probes, because a laser is just a really focused sort of beam of light that's great for communications, and there's no reason why aliens wouldn't know that either. So it's something that is looked for, um, but not seen. They not seen, according to most studies, not seen. There was one paper that seemed to pick up 234 of them from all different areas of the sky, but my sense is that was never followed up on and hasn't been seen. But that paper does exist. Yes, Illinois, just across the river. I can go out on my porch and see Illinois. I'm so close to it. Yeah, for anybody interested in the 234 alien civilization detections, that was done by two scientists, Ermanno Bora and E. Trottier, and the paper is on the archive. And they had out of they were looking at the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, and they came up with 234 detections of something that Bora had theorized might be an alien laser related to it. Now, I have to say, most scientists at the time said not likely, but it is actually. I mean, it's a paper. Um, why did it take so long to disprove string theory? Well, I don't know that it's disproven, but in one form, yes, I guess, but not quite yet. But the reason is that proving or disproving string theory is a problem, because it takes energies that are so great. You can't just go into a particle accelerator and look at this stuff. So you need one the size of the solar system, something like that, to start looking into that. So that's why string theory is a theory, and it isn't anything that's easily testable. Um, that said, I don't know. The big problem in physics is that it's incomplete. General relativity breaks down at the quantum scale, and that's just the reality of it. And nobody's really thought how to link the two, quantum theory and general relativity. And string theory was conceived to do that. Um, and then everybody came up with variations of it. So um, I would say, one interesting thing regarding this is the idea of general relativity, because this is a theory that came down the pike by accident.
String
And
theory?
had there not been an Einstein, we may not even know about general relativity. Only Einstein. Special relativity, yes. General relativity, no. We may not even have that theory had Einstein not existed. As a result, it leads to a bunch of different rabbit holes like string theory that our physics is just not quite advanced enough to tackle yet. And then testing that stuff, my God, testing string theory is mind-boggling. I can't imagine 10,000 years from now we would be able to do it because of the energies required.
Yeah, I'm back, by the way. Yeah, string theory is a rough one. String theory was what? Hardly disproven, just called into question to a degree. That made us reevaluate. So it's a part of obviously cosmology, but goes into, like, other things have kind of taken over with it. Like we have inflation is more the dominant. So string theory, like John said, has its place. It's just, again, it's weaker and weaker as we go on and try to explore it further. For me to sit here, and I don't know about you, John, but for me to sit here and talk about string theory like I really understand it, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many YouTube channels.
Yeah, unless you're a specialist that really, really dig into the equations of that stuff. But I mean, if you can't prove it, then it's just there. And string theory doesn't seem to strike me as something that's easily provable without just a load of energy expenditure. So you
Right.
can, so I just don't know. I just don't know that one will go anywhere for. I mean, it could be 200 years from now. People are like, well, is string theory, you know, the link
Right.
between general relativity and quantum theory?
Yeah, and
So
Kaku just likes to, he likes. What does he say? Does he say he's the founder or the co-founder of string theory? I forget. I don't know. I'm with you on that deep
I
sigh.
Yeah, I don't know regarding Dr. Kaku. I don't know.
He's his co-founder, right? Did you ever see that documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know?
I haven't seen it, but I'm aware of it.
See, another deep sigh. This is just going to be a stream of deep sighs. I don't know how many of you guys have seen that, but we had someone in here the other day that was saying that GR is wrong, that it's not, we haven't proven it right.
Well, that's not true.
That's not true at all. We're waiting for
Yeah,
GR to
general
break.
relativity's been.
Yeah.
I mean, the first confirmation of general relativity, which I think turned out to be an error, was not long after Einstein released it, and they went and they looked at a solar eclipse, and they were able to derive a confirmation of general relativity from it.
Yep.
But since then, there has been many things that are totally consistent with general relativity. So while general relativity is weird, this idea of bending space time and all that, the universe seems to work that way. That's all you can say. And we've never seen anything that said GR is wrong. So it kind of, it is what it is, essentially.
Yeah. And again, so even though GR has proven itself to be right over and over and over again, it's not to say that scientists aren't waiting for the moment that it's not.
Oh no,
Right?
I mean, there would a reevaluation of general relativity would open up so many doors as far as rethinking physics that it would employ physicists for the next 50 years. But it does not appear that general relativity is wrong. But that said, it does break down below the level of the atom, and
Yeah.
nobody knows why. It stops predicting correctly. So you have two competing theories. And to be honest, general relativity is the lesser of the two, because quantum theory is even more successful than general relativity.
Yeah, quantum field theory.
Yes, I mean we use it's used in electronics, it's used
Right.
in all sorts of things. Whereas general relativity is corrected for, like with satellites and things like that.
Right.
But we don't know what links the two. There's a missing puzzle piece. You're sort of, you have missing pieces in your jigsaw puzzle. So, and I don't know if anybody knows how many there are, but that was what string theory really was supposed to do, is try to link the two. But the problem is testing it is so difficult and so, energy intensive that we may never know the actual answer to this.
Right.
And we may just have little, we're working with a jigsaw puzzle, but we never have the picture. We never see the final result. And that's something that has to be reckoned with, that there are questions in this universe that we simply may not be able to physically answer ever.
Right. And that's, I think that's okay.
I do too.
I'm okay with that.
Well, no human that has ever existed understood it all.
Right.
And I'm if you did understand it all, then would there be any wonder in the
Right.
universe?
There would be no quest for knowledge.
Yeah. So I would rather not just, give up. Rather, I would just, I like to wonder. So for me, open questions are good.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel if I didn't.
Exactly. Yeah. And so someone asked on a different tangent, do you think that when, not if, but when humanity first finds evidence of aliens, that they will be long dead remnants of or fossils rather than an extant species?
Entirely possible. There's an idea out there that, by very respected physicists, that maybe we should look at the collection zone of the solar system where Jupiter collects stuff and see if there's any alien trash there. Maybe It would be exoarchaeology, where you're looking at Jupiter's collection zone for, dead spacecraft or something that just sort of collect there. And at some point, and it has to be said, someone is going to have Voyager 2, Voyager 1, Pioneer. They're going to end up in somebody's solar system eventually, maybe, and be sitting there in some collection zone, and somebody might look at them and find the gold record, Carl Sagan's gold record. So, and then they, happily listening to Chuck Berry. So, if that's the case, and bear in mind the universe is 13.8 billion years old, we may not be late, early in the game. We might be late in the game. There could be all kinds of civilizations out there making artifacts, and they could just be collected right there in our solar system. And, for the taking. Now, they're needles in the haystack, because finding something the size of Voyager 2 sitting around in the solar system that's no longer transmitting is way harder than finding a needle in a haystack here on Earth. So,
yeah. And let's hope they never come across the Pioneer plaque that doesn't accurately depict
people. Yes, that was unflattering.
It was very unflattering for men and also women. We just have nothing
Indeed.
Down there.
Yeah, indeed.
We got nothing.
I thought that
we're missing the line. It's a very important line, and it's not there on the Pioneer plaque.
And I could think, if we were going to do that.
Wait, Joe, go ahead and link your image, and so John can open it. And John will start laughing really. Okay, so Joe fixed it, but I'm not going to show it on mine right now, because I am going to put this on YouTube. Although my channel is now marked as mature because of YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Well, all of us.
Yeah, all of us.
Yeah.
So click that link real quick, John, and just take a gander. Joe fixed it because I complained enough.
There we go.
It's fixed. We took care of it. Well, I mean, Joe did. So
yes, but we can't actually put that on the real plaque.
No,
it's in the outer solar system at the moment.
At least, Aaron, at least, and that's Imperial. Joe, remember, Aaron's across the pond like you. The channel might mature. Chat is anything but. I know. But no, but that was, for me, I have to be honest. I was pretty pissed that they couldn't even accurately depict humans. Or I should say humans.
Well, I want to know what the conversation between Carl Sagan and, I assume, Andrian and all of those, on how big to make it. What conversation went on where they were like, what size?
I mean, yeah, that would be awkward, I guess. I mean, that would be, I mean, I would just go with, I don't know. I would probably make humans seem a lot cooler. And cooler makes it sound, I mean, again, that's subjective. That's subjective.
And the other thing is, if your intent was to show the human body and how it works,
right?
You probably, if you want to illustrate that to aliens, it probably shouldn't be. It should have a boner, essentially.
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, just two humans, right?
We have a visitor.
Kitty. Is she saying my food bowl, or is that a she or a he?
No, it's a he, and he's just saying, I want to always checking out the eggplant parmesan's what he's doing.
Oh, he's like, it's cool now.
Yeah.
I won't keep you much longer. Boner is not the normal state, though. I mean, kind of is. Sort of, So, I mean, but these are the things. See, John, I've been telling them for so long. I want someone to come on here and talk about these things, like sex in space.
Oh yeah, this is important stuff.
Yeah, the important stuff. the babies in space. And then I'm like, well, that's going to cause a whole bunch of ethical problems.
Dilemmas galore on that one.
Yeah.
You, I I am loath to think about that debate when it happens because it's going to happen
It's
within our
going to
lifetime.
happen. Yeah. I
Yeah.
keep telling people that people in space are going to die. I know we've seen this before, but to the scale is if we continue our ventures out in space, we're going to see it's going to be more prevalent. And it's something that we're going to have to kind of adjust to.
Well, the point could be made that I actually interviewed a guest on Event Horizon regarding this, that we're going to have to genetically modify ourselves to colonize space and make ourselves conducive to that environment because as it stands, we're not. I mean, adults, yes, because you can take your fate in your own hands and say, I want to climb Mount Everest or I want to go colonize Mars. But you can't subject kids to that. You can't say, well, I'm going to have kids up here because you could end up with something that's really, really bad news. And I think that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, because I mean, is it bad news? Because I mean, it's not like evolution was friendly to us before technology advanced.
True.
It's just because we haven't seen it in our own era that we're suddenly sensitive about it. But and that's what sucks about it is you'd have to be able to objectively break this apart.
Well, I would say a good example to look at regarding the ethics of this is watch The Expanse, where you have belters and things like that can't even visit Earth without going through extreme physical therapy and stuff, such to be able to handle the gravity.
The gravity. Mm-hmm.
That type of thing is going to happen when people are born in space or spend too much time in space. And people that spend too much time in space, as we see with astronauts that spend a long term on the International Space Station, they come back to Earth and it's quite the adjustment, to say the least. So that's going to have to play into whatever we do in space. Now, there are ways around this. For example, simulating gravity with rotation. So you could have an O'Neill cylinder or something like that in space that has the effect of gravity. But
Right.
again, we haven't done any. I mean, the study of what this stuff does to the human body is in its infancy. Only the space agencies have done these sorts of things. So there's going to be unforeseen things, just like there is with down here on Earth, where people thought, well, using lead as a sweetener, lead oxide, which used to happen, is perfectly okay. But then you find out it's not, or cigarette smoking, you think it's okay, then you find out it's not. Space is going to be full of those types of things
Absolutely.
where you think it's going to be okay, but it's not. So, and these unforeseen health issues are something that's going to become a problem. And we have some hints about that, things that, I'm trying to remember some of them where astronauts, lunar astronauts, had certain health problems later in life.
Yeah.
That were inexplicable, but most of them suffered from them. And I think the left eye was one of them.
Yeah. So I think in lower gravity, there's something where like the fluid builds up in the eyes and it like pools in the back and it's never really fully corrected. I forget what the fancy word is for it.
Yeah. I'm digging deep on that one because I just barely remember reading about that. But something happened to the eye. But it was only one eye. It was the left eye, I think.
Yeah. It might have corrected it and became stronger from the space radiation, much like the Thing from the Fantastic Four. That's another thing, radiation.
I think Buzz Aldrin could probably still beat you up if he wanted to.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin's a hell of a man. Yeah, no, there's so many weird things. God, there's so many things. There's so many ways that space can literally kill us.
Well, it's by its very nature space is the harshest environment possible for a human because it is so different. Um, that's another thing. People talk about how beautiful the universe is, but in reality, the universe is extremely hostile. Other than this little thin envelope of atmosphere that we live in, that we can export if we put it in a container like the International Space Station. Other than that, the vast majority of the universe is absolutely deadly to you.
Right. And so if we were to take something like Mars, which has, 38% the surface gravity of Earth, or the moon with 1/6 the gravity, surface gravity of Earth, if we were to test out how humans develop in utero, would you choose the longer distance with a little bit more G, or would you choose closer distance with less G's?
Myself, I
Yeah.
would choose right where I'm at. I'm not leaving Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even to study. So not even you, because I would not, I'm not brave enough for space adventures. I have to admit.
I would go so long as the mechanism for getting there, the rocket, had been tested and used for decades. Um, then it would be no different to me than getting on an airplane. But if I would not be among the first for sure, or even the first people within the first number of years,
Yeah.
because, you know, um, if that were the case, I would go to low Earth orbit, and that would be enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough space for me. I don't really, I'm not compelled to go to the moon. Too much dirt, and I'm not really compelled to go to Mars because there might be microbes and nasties there and such.
Yeah. I wonder how long Elon Musk would wait before he gets his own rocket. Gets on his own rocket. Who knows?
He's given contradictory answers on that. He initially said that no, he wouldn't go. Now he said maybe. So, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, because again, I just, it's one of the things that I've always wanted to have somebody on here that could talk candidly about NASA and what it knows about even just sex in space. I don't think that we doubt that that's been a thing on the ISS. But again, I just make jokes about people saying, it's okay, we can watch someone eat applesauce for like the 5th time and how it works, in microgravity.
Well, there are a lot of questions about that. I
Has it
I think
happened? Oh,
I think the professionalism of the astronauts
yeah.
means that maybe not. That it may not have happened yet. Um, but then again, who knows what Russians may have done or anything like that. They
Right.
may have a completely different view of it.
Right.
Um, but it's going to happen soon if it hasn't already. Um, the other thing, and this is the one that I think bothers me, is for all this time,
Mm.
we have always had the possibility of someone getting stranded up there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Russians solved this not for this reason, but they put a gun on the Soyuz. And that was actually in response to an astronaut, I think, that ended up landing in a different area than was originally designed.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I want a gun because there's wolves around here. So they started equipping it with a firearm. But that could also be used in the event that something terrible was going to happen, which did happen in the Soviet space program.
Right.
They lost the Soyuz. What did NASA do? Were there cyanide capsules or something on these spacecraft, or nothing? Especially
Right.
the lunar ones. And
Right.
I don't think that's ever been answered. I don't know that anybody knows, if that happened or not.
So how do
And
we?
thankfully, nothing bad has happened to that level.
No,
But
but I mean, again, like we're barely tapped into space exploration. Like we don't even
barely.
we haven't even. We're no more than the Hubble Space Telescope right now. We're sending things, probes places. We have things lined
Oh,
up, but
make no mistake, people will die in space.
I know, and
But
that's
but people die on Earth constantly
Right.
for many different reasons. So Earth is not a safe zone either. So
Mm-hmm.
you just have to consider it an extension. Um, yes, people will go into space and people will die, but people also go on the highway and die.
Right.
So you have to look at it in perspective. How many people died in the westward expansion of the United States? A
Sure.
lot.
Right.
So you kind of have to keep a perspective that you know you don't get out of this universe alive, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, you're going to have people that will go to Mars and say, "I'm willing to take the risk."
Yeah. And I think Flown Pros, I think there's only been one death actually in space, like in space, like out in space. I think it was a Russian astronaut.
There was the re-entry one.
So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about escape velocity or reentry. There was yeah, was it the reentry one? There was one Russian guy I think that actually died like in space. I'd have to verify that though. Like he's a corpsicle, I think. And I mean that with all
Well,
respect.
yeah, launching into space, obviously there's been a
Right.
number of them.
Even tests, yeah.
Yeah, tests, of course, with Apollo.
Would a gun work in 0G?
I believe so.
Yeah, it just
My initial thought is yes, it
yeah.
would.
The only thing that would
Um,
be different is how that would carry. But again, if you have an opposing force,
yeah, you have Newtonian physics there.
yeah. If anything, it would work better. Yeah, you could keep that bullet traveling quite substantially if it didn't meet up against anything else for quite some time.
Now, the gun would, of course, react and go flying in the opposite direction. But if you were holding on to it, I don't imagine it would be any much different than firing a gun here on Earth.
Yeah, inertia. Yeah, it doesn't like to be. I always say inertia doesn't like to be fucked with. It likes to stay at the same speed that it is traveling or in a state of rest. Yeah, so why don't we ever do like centrifuges? Why haven't we done this? Is it just a budget issue, you think, John? And I'll let you go here in the next like 5 minutes because I want you to be able to eat and everything. And
Yes, I think it's just a matter of expense
yeah,
that we haven't done it. I think there was some plan that back in the day, Werner von Braun had proposed a rotating space station that would have had the artificial gravity essentially, but nothing was ever built. Nothing was ever done. We actually lost a lot of opportunities with uh, the space program in the 1980s because we could have followed up on that stuff, or even just did things with the spent shuttle tanks. We had these big, humongous tanks sitting up there that could have been repurposed as space stations and things like that, but we never did any of it. And I always found that to be sort of disappointing.
yeah.
Um,
Um, Erin Knight is a witch. She knows a lot. And I don't know, Joe. It could have been that. I thought there was someone that actually died out in space, but I could be wrong. It could have been a reentry like James G was saying here.
I don't remember anybody actually dying out in space. Now I remember
Yeah.
rumors of it, but those are just rumors, and Russia's not going to, say anything about it anyway. So
Yeah. And also again, like even people think with out in space deaths that they would be super dramatic like what we see in the movies, but it's a lot boring. It's more boring than that. Especially if you have like a cracked face mask, you're just gonna breathe in nothing pretty much. Dog would die there, yeah.
I mean, one would think it would be more like drowning than.
Yeah, no, you're just gonna suffocate. Yeah, it's gonna be asphyxiation. So, but a lot of people think like I think like Event Horizon, the movie, which is a great movie. But they think like all kinds of
Event Horizon, where everybody,
explodes.
Um, we don't need eyes where we're going.
Yeah. That was such a great movie, though.
It was not the hardest sci-fi in the world, but
Nope.
it was at least a very fun plot.
Yeah, it was. But I will let you get to eating your food, and I appreciate you hopping on, and we'll have you on again here soon because things are calming down more, especially after the holidays. But
Good.
your food is probably cooled by now, I would say. Yeah.
I have a microwave, so
You have a microwave.
I have a microwave that fixes that problem.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And guys, check out JMG on the Event Horizon. I will have all of his links. We might step into some of his stuff again tomorrow. We usually do. And thank you also for letting us sit here and watch your channel and stuff and supporting me on the days where my brain just doesn't work. 'Cause that's often recently. That's a lot. But yeah, there's John, guys. Go check him out. And I will talk to you soon, John.
Yep. I'll see you later, Sky.
All right. See ya.